Friends, Romans, countrymen, country mice, and coincidental stumblers upon this video, welcome to my vlog! If you're new, my name's Musichetta. I'm a 21-year-old cis woman in New York City. I'm in college, studying comparative literature. I love food and fandoms, and I'm part of the lovely group of people called Les Amis, which chances are is why you're watching this video. Darling viewers, I apologize in advance. This video is only the second one I'm making, but it's a heavy one. Trigger warnings if you have any concerns. Mentions of violence, mentions of bullying, and mentions of queerphobia. If any of these things trigger you, I bid you an early farewell. I hope you will return in good health and good humor to the next video. Well, now that that's done, darling viewers, those of you who remain, back to the disclaimer. I'm going to be discussing some dark times, both in my life in particular and more generally. It's a difficult conversation to have, but I believe it's a very important one. I've often wondered what the lowest point is in a person's life. When do you know you've hit the bottom of the valley? Obviously it's something different for every person, but I do think there's something all of humanity's worsts share. It's not just being pushed to the lowest circumstances by war or poverty or violence or illness or something along those lines. I think you hit rock bottom, so to speak, when you let those circumstances change you. When I was in high school, I didn't have a whole lot of money. My family's never exactly been what you'd call rich. I got a lot of my clothes from inexpensive stores and sometimes thrift shops. And I loved my clothes, I really did, but when everyone around you is going on shopping extravaganzas every other weekend, when they invite you and you have to say no every single time, it wore on me. I felt insecure and unworthy of their company, and after a while, they started to see me that way too. As you may or may not know, viewers, I identify as pansexual. Around the time of high school was when I started to discover that about myself, and this was one of the things that made me different and came to mark me as wrong in the minds of my classmates. At first it wasn't like bullying in the movies. Nobody took my lunch money or cornered me at my locker. It was subtler. Everyone started to keep their distance. I was alright with that for a while, though. I still had my wonderful parents to talk to, but I was still staying silent. And let me emphasize this point. That was the wrong choice for me to make. I didn't seek help from anyone. I thought I was being strong. In some twisted sort of way. The people who bullied me were becoming more and more audacious with every word I didn't say, with every time I silenced my own cries for help. They called me a fag, and a whore, and a bitch, and a nerd, and every word you could possibly use to beat someone down. And then they started beating me down in a much more literal sense. I went home with a bruise one day and I told my parents I'd fallen down the stairs. So, slowly it stopped being enough. All my outs. My parents, my TV and books and movies. That was the absolute worst that it got. I was beginning to realize, finally, that this wasn't what was supposed to happen to me. This wasn't what I deserved, and by staying silent, I wasn't being strong. But I'm not proud of what I did next. In fact, I feel horrible. It was absolutely the worst moment of my life. It was after school, and I was confronted by a couple of boys out in the parking lot. They were doing their typical thing, pushing me around, telling me I was unnatural. I was a nerd, I was a greedy whore, and so many other hurtful things. And after months of enduring this torture, I finally caved. I was done being quiet. I was done being their punching bag. So I punched back. It wasn't like they were linebackers or anything, they were just high school guys. I don't know if there was a clear winner. I mean, we all went home bloody. But they didn't bother me as much after that. Yeah, I know what some of you are thinking. It worked, didn't it? But that's not the point. The point is it should never have gotten that far. I don't blame myself for being bullied, of course. I was a victim, but I still feel like I should have talked to someone, brought people's attention to what was going on before things had to get that violent. Dear viewers, I'm not the fighting type. I don't like physical fights. I don't even like watching sports involving fights, like boxing or wrestling. I don't like to think about what I did that day. It was rock bottom. For a while, I couldn't stop thinking about ways I could have improved the situation before it got that bad. I should have said something. I should have done something. Anything. I was terrified. This time of myself. We did a Shakespeare unit in English class, and I wept over Lady Macbeth's dirty hands for a solid hour. Out damned spot. It took a couple long late-night talks with my parents to come to terms with everything that had come to pass, to really let myself process it, and then move on. I guess that's what I really want to talk about here. Moving on. Once you hit the absolute lowest you can go, it's important not to stay there. The only direction you can go is up, right? So it's best to just get going, and try not to look back. Blaming myself wasn't the solution to my problem. Obviously, I'd done something horrible. I couldn't just go back and fix that, but I had to begin the long process of healing. And I think I did pretty well with that. But I think one of the things that helped the most was my online activity. I wasn't a part of Les Amis yet, obviously. I'm not even sure if Les Amis had formed at that point, but I found people who loved the same things I loved, people who identified the way I did in terms of sexuality, and just a much more accepting community than the one I'd encountered at school. I found friends, even if they weren't ones I could see in person, and they helped me move on from a really dark time in my life. I think having people to support you at your lowest is really the key to moving up. Redemption is possible. Even someone who's done the worst things, even someone who's done something ultimately horrible, has the power to change. It comes from the network of people you surround yourself with, sure, but I think it also comes from inside yourself. You need to find the strength within you, and use it like it's rocket fuel. My favorite kind of story is the one where someone tears their mind and heart away from darkness, and there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's something they can embrace. And it is absolutely my belief that it's possible in real life. Anakin Skywalker did it. Narcissa Malfoy did it. Sherlock Holmes did it. And I did it too. To anyone out there who thinks they're at their lowest, that's okay. I believe in you. Please send me a message, either in the comments or at my Tumblr, if you need someone to support you, like so many wonderful people supported me. I would be more than happy to help you, and I'm sure there are others who would too. If you don't feel like you can talk about it yet, that's okay too. I still think you're great, and you have my solidarity. You can get better. You will get better. To anyone out there who's on the road back up from their own rock bottom, good for you. You've made it past the lowest things can go. Keep heading upwards, and likewise, if you need me, I'm always here for you. To Jolie and Bossuet, and to all of mes amis. I've never really shared this part of myself with anyone before. It's always something I've believed was better left alone. But this experience, sharing my story, has been cathartic. So now it's out. You've heard the story of my darkest moments. I love you all, and I hope you all love me. You guys are the best friends I could ask for. And with that, dear viewers, I think I'm done here. This has been a bit exhausting for me. I'm sorry if it strained you as well, but I think this is a good conversation to have. Please share any thoughts you have in the comments or direct them to the Tumblr blog thing. I look forward to speaking to you all again. Though the night was made for loving, and the day returns too soon, so we'll go no more a roving by the light of the moon.